And we're live today on Imagine Fitting podcast with Eddie Brett. Eddie, welcome.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, man. It's a real pleasure. And I have to say that it's a real, what do you call it? I'm starting to feel more special because I'm starting to reach more people across the pond. And what got me excited about hearing about your story and you is the fact that, you're a musician, and I have been a long time, I wanted to be when I first heard, I'll tell you a little story. My first album I ever purchased, and I was about 12 years old. I asked my mom to take me to the store, and my first album I wanted to purchase, and she was like, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Yeah, Mom, yes. And it was Stevie Wonder and the Songs of Key of Life.
I mean, hey, that's not a bad first choice.
Right? But then I will carry on, and you'll relate to this. I discovered Led Zeppelin 4. And when I put the first track on, first side, Black Dog, I was in. I was like, as a 12-year-old kid, I was obsessed from there, and I've still been obsessed. And there were times where I really wanted, I was attracted to the drums and beating on things. And maybe that's some of my ADHD, which I just kind of come to understand that maybe that's what I've been dealing with and how I've been operating. But that being said, I'm really excited to have you on to hear your story. Because, as when people have music in mind, especially when they're young, right? You have like this, this feels so exciting, and it's a pulsation, it's a frequency. And the universe is just full of frequencies. We are frequencies colliding. And I think that dream of like, oh yeah, you get together like, oh, can we just have one hit? We just one hit on the radio. We'll be happy, And so my path took one where I wasn't confident enough, and I didn't have the means to get those music lessons. But down the road, I can talk about that later, about that I engaged myself. But I wanted to be Robert Plant, number one. That was the first one. I wanted to be Robert Plant. But anyway, before, as we were talking earlier, I was mentioning how I don't know, I'm nervous every time I do this podcast. And I found that that's like, when you're nervous, it means something. So how, what comes to mind when you think of that, those nerves?
Yeah.
And you've been down that road multiple times, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Because I experienced the flip side of that as well. That's why I was like, hit record, because we're going to get into a conversation now, because I totally agree with what you just said. Because I've performed in like the biggest like places that the UK has to offer. Like Wembley Stadium doesn't get much bigger than that in terms of capacity.
Wow.
And I played there with my band. I played the Royal Albert Hall, the O2 Arena, all these venues that when you're a kid, you're watching all your favorite bands play them, and then I'm there. So I always remember, you get that feeling beforehand. And my dad used to say something, and it stuck with me: don't let the fear of the moment get in the way of the opportunity of a lifetime.
Oh, that's great, dude.
Yeah, so I'd always just remember that this is just the moment, and I have to do it regardless. So I remember that feeling. But then the thing that when you was talking that strikes me most hearing that is the flip side of that, where I remember when I got to the point in the band where I felt trapped and I was depressed and I just didn't care anymore about anything I was doing. I didn't get nervous anymore, because the reality was I didn't care. Like I was clocked out. It's now just a job, and I have to commit to these final however many gigs that I had to do. And I was emotionally just, I wasn't there, and I didn't care. And so it speaks to the other side of what you were saying of like, because I definitely agree, when it means something, it's your body telling you that like, no, try and get everything together for this, because what you're about to do could elevate your life. And then the flip side of that is when you don't care anymore, you don't get nervous because you don't care, and that's equal. That's horrible. Like, imagine doing things in life that we don't care about.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, that speak to me, what that brings to me is that speaks to me about the lack of resolve, but the lack of discovery. And, you know, this podcast is about healthy mentors, healthy lives, and community. And I think that mentors play a huge role, and some people have, uh, um, you know, blessed with opportunity and circumstance where they're able to, between their parents and their family members and their, you know, people that are around them, they have the opportunity to discover like what they're passionate about and their purpose. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head when you said that when you checked out, you had so much desire to go to a place, you come to a place, and then you realize like, okay, maybe it's not all what I imagined. And on Imagine Fitting In, my messaging is all about trying to encourage everyone that it's really important that we take time to discover what really fuels us, a passion, a purpose. When you put your feet on the ground outside off when you get out of bed, like what would you want to go do if you had all the money in the world? And I think that when you mentioned about like how, you know, to completely check out, it's like meaning you're just not connected to a purpose or a meaningful approach to the day. And that, and obviously you can tell us more about your journey. But, you know, I really understand with checking out because some people never even get the opportunity to do what you saw, the polarity in that, right? You were in Wembley Stadium in O2 Arena. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I'm done. And that was such a polarity and such extreme for you that it was like, whoa. But most people, sometimes it's a blessing that you had that opportunity, and it creates such insight because now you know what you thought you wanted, and then you got something, and then it's helping define where it is that you actually stand in the present day. And, you know, I'm sure you would never take back any of your experiences. I've come to a point where like I'm always curious. I'm always saying that what if, and that's what fuels me. And if I try to encourage this podcast to promote the idea that as parents, as mentors, and young people, listen, every exchange is powerful and it's helped support the next project or level. But tell me, you know, before the spotlight, you know, who was Eddie Brett? You know, and were you chasing music first or did it find you?
Yeah, it's a similar thing to you hearing that Led Zeppelin album. I was in my dad's garage and he had this Iron Maiden album on. And I was just like, whoa, what is this? Because I haven't heard anything like this in mum's car or even your car, dad. Like, this is like the secret albums that he got out whilst he was in the garage. And I don't know if it was no, I know it was the electric guitars. I just never heard anything like that before. And then I was drawn to the fact of what I couldn't listen to. I don't know. I was just I noticed that there was something about these albums that were making people nervous because it happened because I loved that album, right? I'd be listening and I just started drawing the album cover and it was all these monsters. It was Best of the Beast, Iron Maiden. And then I took it to primary school because it was Christmas. So you're allowed to take CDs in to play in the classroom, but my teacher wouldn't play it. And I just remember thinking, whoa, this is cool. Like, I don't know why, but, and there was no swearing or anything on this album. So I was just intrigued. Like, what is it about this that you won't play? Is there something dangerous about guitars? And all of that just really enticed me. And then as I got a bit older, it was other things I couldn't buy. There's an album, Is a rapper. It's not a band, but they're called The Streets, basically. Mike Skinner, original pirate material, when it had swearing on it. So then I wasn't allowed to buy it. So again, I was kind of like, I have to find a way to get this album. And Blink 182. My dad was very relaxed when it came to music, but he wouldn't let me buy the album. And then that made me want it more, because I'm like, what is it about this stuff that I'm not allowed to have? And that enticed me.
Well, let me comment on that, because a couple things. You know, mythology and beasts and extreme beings and that polarity of the good boy or the good person or that good pristine image on an album cover that is supposed to be like, this is the way we act in a civil society. And there's a certain conditioning process in the education system, and people and teachers are trained to kind of hold the line in a curriculum because that's their jobs. And, you know, I say all along that I think that I know American schools I believe they need to be completely overhauled in the way they teach, because we're basically riding on old system like after World War II. And what I think what happened, and I understand exactly what you're saying, is those evil looking images or these, you know, Led Zeppelin 4, that kind of cover, that, you know, that cover on that was like, okay, then you opened it up and you saw, like, was that the Grim Reaper inside or whatever? And when people they were trying to like keep you from seeing certain things, but like you said, there was no swearing language. It was loud frequencies that nobody really got, or they're assuming that that's too harsh and too violent sounding, as opposed to having some emotion behind that. And that, I mean, what kid doesn't get angry at times? What adult doesn't get angry at times? But what, you know, that whole thing of emotions. So I think, and it goes also what you said about when you heard these, you saw these pictures, you never saw it on the radio, you played it and your dad had it and you found it and you're like, why am I not supposed to have this? And it's almost when you pull stuff away that is intriguing and engaging, why don't people just explain to you, you know, what they believe this is, and ask them what you're thinking about what you're seeing, as opposed to just boxing it off and going, no, you're too young for that. It's like alcohol. It's like alcohol. Oh, if I can't have it, I want it.
Yeah, you're right, actually, because it wasn't so much. It was just that she just wasn't playing it, but there was no resolve. I wasn't told any reason why. And then it's funny because you think of what they would have been playing, and I don't know if it hit the States, but we had people like S Club Juniors, for example, or S Club 7, and real pop songs. But a friend of mine was actually in S Club Juniors, and she thinks back now to the songs they were singing, and it's really problematic because there they are, kids who are 13, talking about these adult issues. And it's really weird to hear like kids singing songs about stuff that they're not living at all.
Right.
It's a bit creepy in some respects.
Well, it's kind of a, at the time, like, okay, we're going to play this music and we're going to have you sing these words and we're going to condition you in now what you're going to be practicing when you can actually fully understand this and come of age when you're a teenager or something, or when you start, you get to have you get to have choices.
Yeah, that's it.
So okay, so like you've discovered that album as Iron Maiden, you said, right?
Yeah.
And dude, I have some friends that were going to like give full respect to you. They're like crazy Iron Maiden fans. So what do you remember about that? After that, you like, okay, I have to listen to this. What else do you remember about that?
Yeah, so after that, I had to be an Iron Maiden or in a similar band. I couldn't play guitar. I couldn't play anything. So Christmas, I asked for a guitar, but I couldn't play anything. It was literally, I couldn't. So I had the means to be the thing, but that was just the frustration of being inept to do it.
Yes.
So, and then I started to learn not so much about guitar, but just I started to learn how much I needed to learn about guitar to even be able to play what Iron Maiden played, because it's really intricate stuff. but then I found out that you can buy a chord book and it literally tells you where to put your fingers, and you put your fingers there and then you can play something that starts to sound like music. And then if I do 4 of those chords, well, now that feels like I could make a song off the back of that. And that's what I did. I just started writing my own songs out of necessity because,
Building.
yeah, I had to be an Iron Maiden. So I've got to write my own songs. That was how, and then I just went with that. Um,
Would you
and
do you think you were obsessed at that point?
yeah, man, yeah, obsessed with, yeah, yeah. It was just because I'm really grateful now, like, because I've got quite a few friends who are songwriters, and some have had amazing careers with it. And I find it really funny how we don't find it weird to write our lives in song form. Like some people come up to me and they're like, "I think it's so amazing that you have the confidence to write and like perform your own songs." And then it's just funny because it's like I don't see anything else. Like I've never seen doing a set full of covers. It's just never been on my radar. It's not my entry point. So it's not that it's not a conscious decision to be brave or anything. It's literally just, it's all I can do. It's all I've ever been able to do. And then I've just been running with that.
I'm going to commend you, my friend, because that is a powerful nugget for I want to share that with young people and everybody about encouraging when you get so intrigued and you're so determined that imagine fitting in. Okay. You're like, no, I don't necessarily want to fit in. I'm here. I'm coming. I'm me. And
Yeah, yeah.
this is like, you don't want to be boxed up and put in and expect something. And that creativity in that between those images and those frequencies and that sound and like, oh, I'm not supposed to do that, but why am I obsessed and thinking all about this? And you obviously, your determination, that is probably right there is like what every person, if they don't find it when they're young, you think they're ever going to find it when they're old?
No, not at all. Because you don't even realize the stuff that you've done that's cool until you get to your late 20s and you reflect. Because up until this point, you're just a ball of anxiety and always comparing yourself to everything else. And then
Exactly.
you get over the hurdle, and you're like, oh wow, I can't believe it. Because I've actually met Iron Maiden. Like I
Really?
went, yeah. Like I went to Brazil to watch them at Rock in Rio, and basically through divine intuition, like divine meddling or whatever, I ended up having a barbecue with with Steve Harris, who wrote all the songs, the bass guitarist of Iron Maiden. I had
Wow.
a barbecue on his day off with him. So there was we played football, and I think about 15 to 16 people went to this barbecue, and me and my brother were 2 of those. And it was like, how, Wayne's World, where just going, we're not worthy. Well, I couldn't believe that moment was even happening. And I knew that it wasn't even worth me explaining it to anyone. I just had to pretend that I deserved to be there and just be there. Like I didn't tell him, oh, you mean so much to me. I play guitar because of you. I was just there, like, this is a lovely burger. This is a really good barbecue. Thanks for inviting me.
It's like you're humbled and you are reminding yourself like, yeah, and what's that last comment you just made, right? When you said the feeling that you had when you were there, that was fun. That's that anxiety, that lack of potential was finally washed away amongst like, this is just another guy, like he was another kid, right?
Yeah. And
At another time in his life and circumstance have put you in front of somebody like, oh, you're my God, I'm sure that was an amazing experience for you.
the beauty of that is, like, Steve Harris. So the members of Iron Maiden are from all over now, but when they first started, they started in East London. So 2 of the original members are still in the band. So we were born at the same hospital and lived in the same areas. So the fact that we're in Brazil, of all places,
Yeah.
Rio, and I'm speaking to this guy who's done all that stuff, but at the heart of it, he's a bloke from East London as myself. And that's what's exciting. So I don't know. I don't know how to explain that. There was so much going on yeah, it's been wonderful. And yeah, it's that alone, when you think back and you go, how have I done that? Like that's
What a beautiful part of the highlight reel.
yeah, man, for sure. Yeah.
So 2012, right? I guess everything accelerated fast with the Loveable Rogues.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
And you were in, this was Britain's Got Talent, was your like that sudden visibility? What
Yeah.
what did you end up teaching you about your like identity? And obviously we talked about this before, pressure.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of like when we were talking about nerves, I couldn't even I don't even have the words to explain to you how scary that experience is. It's terrifying because you know it's got the means to change your life, and at that moment, seemingly it would have destroyed it equally. At myself at that age, at that moment in time, if because I'm destined to be a rock star. If I'm then told I'm not even good enough to get through the first round of Britain's Got Talent, it's over. Do you know what I mean? It's
Yes, you put that in your mind as opposed to what the reality may be coming.
yeah. So I remember me and my mate Tay, we just couldn't sleep the night before. We booked a hotel because it was an early morning, and yeah, it was so scary. But anyway, yeah, but it all went really super well. Got through to the finals, come fourth. We lost to a dog basically because those shows are a bit mad because like it's not like Pop Idol or X
Right,
Factor where
right,
it's all
right,
singers. We're not like top five singers. If you come fourth on a singing show, you're kind of like, I'm the fourth best singer. But on Britain's Got Talent, you're up against choirs or opera
right,
singers or
right.
dogs or swimmers or gymnasts or clowns or comedians.
Okay, but think of it this way. Two things, okay? You have those categories, and guess what, bud? You guys stood out as the best type of singers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we were the only band in the
Sure.
final.
Yes. And
Yeah.
then people have to realize this, that when we pursue, I don't like to say chase, when we pursue, I believe with purpose and you're passionate about it, no matter the outcome, the people who see you, and maybe not at that moment, it's a click where you believe like this is the only path if I have to be number one. As long as you're showing up and you're bringing what you're bringing and you're passionate about it, the people, and you can tell, I'm sure you're going to be able to expand on this with Simon Cowell, because you're going to get people's attention and you're going to percolate in their heads. I always have meetings with people and go, okay, let's talk about this stuff. Let's go percolate on it for a while. Let's talk again.
Yeah.
And you had that platform, which was unbelievable. You're nervous because you know what? Underlyingly, I think unconsciously, you knew that better things are going to come no matter what. No, and it's hard to look past this right, your immediate performance. I bet, like, oh my gosh, this is it, because this is like this outcome that we're looking for now. But what about the future? And obviously your future blew up with opportunity. Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about how that went from there and all that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because if I could, for the sake of being helpful to, because I love the fact that this is like a mentorship type podcast. There was a real tension in my life at that moment in time. I would have been about 20 or maybe 19, and the other two boys were a year or two younger than me. So it was the tension between me knowing that I was good enough to be where I wanted to be to and destined for that, but with the reality of not having a clue if it's ever going to happen or how it's going to happen. Because I come from just where I'm from, no one's ever been in a. Well, I'm saying that, but I've just mentioned that Iron Maiden were in a massive band, but it's not the status quo. It's not, and it's not even really encouraged because
Right.
that holds risk. And where I'm from, it's like risk averse because at the end of the day, you need to pay for food and bills, and being creative and artistic, it doesn't always line up with those things. So you can take risks, but your family and your friends and your community might not really want to do it, like, because it's scary. It's the unknown. We got a good track record with footballers, so like if I wanted to be a footballer, that would have been seen as less scary.
That's risky.
Because at my school, Harry Kane and David Beckham both went to my school.
Wow.
So we know we produce global footballers. But in terms of music and stuff, so there was this real thing, and we didn't want to go on a talent show because they come with their own branding of what they stand for and whatnot. And it wasn't us. We didn't want to do it. But they kept coming and inquiring about us. And it was just that opportunity that we just felt like, yeah, like I say, that tension of wanting it all now, not knowing how or if it's ever going to actually come. Because it's only faith at that point. All you've got to keep you going is faith and belief in yourself and your peers. So it was that thing of, let's just do it. Let's go for it.
So what was the energy like when you and how, I mean, how did you first meet your bandmates, and how did the energy transform from the beginning to all of a sudden coming to a place where you guys are literally going, okay, they're pursuing us, but we're not quite you're not quite sure that you wanted to go on that particular competition? How was the energy with the band and everybody's perception on that?
Yeah, so at the start, it was very much me. As I mentioned, I am going to be a rock star. I want to be a rock star. So I joined this college. And again, that was funny how I ended up there, because a girl was leaving the college that I was formerly at to go to this like performing arts college, basically. And I didn't want her to leave because then my experience would have been less good. So I was like, where are you going to? And then she said this performing arts place that I didn't even know these places existed. I was so not in the loop with that world that I didn't know there was colleges you could go to that specialized in performing arts. So she said to me, well, why don't you audition and see if you get in? And I got a part scholarship. My parents had split up at that moment in time. So what I did is I leveraged that against them both to help get some finances. I went to my mum and I said, Dad said he'll pay half if you pay the other half. And then I went to my dad and I said, Mum said she'll pay half if you pay the other half. And they both said, okay. So with the scholarship and then half from both parents, thank you very much to both of them, I was in this college. So, yeah, I'll continue. So whilst I'm there, you weren't allowed to do extra curriculum stuff because it meant that you wasn't going to be focusing fully on the curriculum. So auditions or gigs and stuff, they weren't allowed because they wanted you to be present there. But my teacher, she saw something in my songs. And again, thank you very much to her. And she said to me, as long as you're always in the morning, and it doesn't affect you. If you're late, basically, mate, you're done. But if you're not late and you can keep doing what you're currently doing, I've got no problem with you doing it because I get it and I'm on board. So she allowed me to keep doing that. Then I got into the final of this unsigned competition thing, and I was up against the band and I wanted to win it. And I wrote this song called Lovesick. And I asked my mates, Sonny and Tay, because they're my college friends, "Oi, can you come with me to this gig? Because I want to win it, basically. And you both sing really well and you play a ukulele. And I feel like it could be enough to get me over the line, because I just scraped through to the finals because I was funny. So I knew like now it'd be about the music. So I wanted to elevate it. We went along and we won.
That was very smart of you.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. And we won. And we won the competition. And everyone's like, what's the name of your band? And we're not in a band. Something amongst them two, I think I showed them like a whole new world because I was a bit older than them. I'd been gigging quite a bit by this point, whereas they'd never done a gig in their life. And I think they found it quite enticing.
You were mentoring them.
Yeah, essentially, I guess so, yeah. About songwriting, gigs, even traveling. Like they hadn't really ever traveled by themselves about places. And then we went back to college and we just, my teacher, the same teacher that let me go gigs, she heard that song and was like, this is great. We'll put it in the end of year show because from her point of view, in big numbers, because there was a lot of people, it was musical theatre, a lot of people doing musical theatre stuff. So if you have loads of people on stage and then there's going to be loads of people on stage next, sometimes it's really helpful to have like a little small piece so that they could all have time to get changed and things. So that's why in shows sometimes you get like a solo or something like that, because it just means that everyone can change the set, get ready for the next big number.
Yes.
So that's why she was like, oh, brilliant, because they're in their first year, which means they won't be in the other pieces. And that's perfect. But that really wound up the third years, because some of them didn't even get their own piece in their show. And here we were in first year with our own song in it. Yeah. So
it's something about being nimble and quick, being creative, bringing something that is a tool that people that are like your teacher and those people that were putting on those productions and those contests and whatever, that all of a sudden, like, wow, this act is actually, it's unique in itself. It's part of the whole production here. And then they say, oh, we can use this like this and complement this, like you said, just preparing these bigger productions. But I want to step back for a second and say, number one, you're the gal, or I don't know if it was your girlfriend who turned you on to like educating you about what your resources were, the school.
Yeah.
And then going back and, God bless your parents. Big shout. What's your parents' names of your parents?
Caroline and Mark.
Big shout out to Caroline and Mark. And, I bet it's the best decision they ever made. God bless. And this teacher who had probably right in the back of her heart, probably right in front of her heart, in the back of her mind, I see a little bit of myself, or I see that compassion, right? As a kid, like you had. And she's like, okay, I'm going to be honest and open, and just communicating with you, right? Being honest and open. Like nobody was comfortable to, like the other teacher earlier, to go, yeah, this is why do you like this album? They didn't have time to go deep. They probably think you couldn't comprehend. But it's those little things that, you'll remember a lifetime when somebody takes a moment and shares one comment, no matter what age. You know what I mean? I think that's a powerful thing. And I think that's what I'm trying to promote in my podcast. And I'm going to, share with you, Eddie, this podcast was started in honor of my late nephew, who we lost to opioid addiction. And this is a passion project for me. I'm a longtime 30 plus year fitness professional with an arts background. I used to work in advertising, and I'm a very creative guy. Everything you see in my branding and everything I am on my website, my social media, it's all me, all my creation. I'm an artist, and I loved music. Unfortunately, I didn't have the ability to learn how to play drums, because, drums are loud, and we had a lot of, I lost siblings, and it's expensive, right? Music lessons, all that you're saying, right? And your resources. So my point is that, I'm trying to inspire both adults and people of all ages, down to the young ones, to say, listen, every conversation, there's a moment of exchange. There's something that takes a light off, sets off a light, and it can be just a passing comment. You can spend 20 minutes stuck waiting for a train, chatting with someone you'll never know in the rest of your life, but you may have conversations that both support what you already believe, or something they say supports what you already believe, or they give you a new nugget to think about. And that's why I'm here interviewing you, and want to hear more about your journey. And you've already demonstrated that they're all around us, and with that determination for the youth and people of all ages, find something that's like, when I say, do you have a hobby? When I ask people, do you have a hobby? Oh, no, I don't got that. I don't have time for that. Well, if you don't make time for something that's outside that norm of, like, I know we have to work, right? We have to put food on the table and roof over our head. But if you're not at least giving yourself a glimpse of time and moments for yourself, then you're going to be doing, right? You're never going to be reaching out beyond what society has. This is your expectation. This is where you grew up, you live, you're going to live your rest of your life. There's no chance. If you can't give yourself the idea that you have a chance, right? You feel me? That, and no matter, arts is a big classic, right? Everyone says, oh no, you can't be an artist. You got to make money, whatever. Well, everybody in the world would just crumble without music, the arts, poetry, right? Creative expression.
Yeah. Well, there was huge moments in civilization where that was the bit that was celebrated most of all, because everything else was seen as worthless. It was almost like human beings, the fact that we can make art and gorillas or giraffes can't. That is our divine purpose, is that we have the ability to create beautiful things, and that is our God-given purpose, essentially. So those that could were the highest in society, because they are doing something that gives all of us a reason to be.
And it's like the form of expression, so that on that conscious level, right? Either the conscious or subconscious level. When I'm a painter, I'm a photographer, I sing, I play drums, I write, and it's like sometimes you'll look at something or hear something or feel something or listen to something, and you may not, you consciously go, oh my gosh, that's just great, I just feel that to the bones. And other times you're like, I'm attracted to it, but I can't quite define it. So on a subconscious level, you've consumed something. And then I think that in terms of fitness and wellness on a physiological plane, that's where my world is. Between that of being self-care and taking care of your body as a structure, and then the arts are as a form of expression, where I believe that, it doesn't matter what comes out. Just express yourself in these mediums of writing and singing and painting and various forms of creative expression, building something that's never been built before. Outside the box, you have to let it out. And I think that's a big part of mental health. Because if you're not really truly nurturing your potential spirit, and unfortunately, I was blessed in a circumstance where, I had, and you sound like you did as well. You had enough foundation of a family and safety and protection, and gave you the framework to go off to school, right? To have friends, to make the choices you made. Now, tell me what, tell us about you had a top 10 single, and you ended up.
Yeah, cool. There's lots of different conversations going on at once. Yeah, there's all sorts to talk about. Because just to go back to what you're saying, it's if you're not going after that thing that's in your head all the time, you're actually getting in the way of your purpose. Like, that's the reality of it. If you're not nurturing it, you're literally getting in the way of everything that could be coming your way. And I feel like we're very good at doing that sometimes.
Oh,
And then I'd just quickly like to give in the snippet of my teacher, Michelle, because she, super important person in this narrative. But and where you're saying about inspiring both youngsters but also older people, is that we ended up inspiring her as well in her life. She made a shift, because so she didn't, what happened with me is she didn't see herself in me. Maybe she did, but I know for a fact that have you heard of Sylvia Young?
I have not.
It's like a children's performing arts school. It's so basically everyone in Harry Potter films 1 and 2 would have gone to Sylvia Young, because it was just full of all the amazing youngsters that are that way inclined, and people like Amy Winehouse went through there and stuff like that. Incredible. And there was a band called Busted. I don't know if you're familiar with them in America, but in the 2000s, they were our sort of like pop rock punk sort of band, and the guitarist and singer of that is a guy called Matt Willis. Now, Michelle taught Matt Willis when she was at Sylvia Young. So when he was a little lad, she taught him, and then he went on to be in Busted, and he wrote a song called That's What I Go to School For, which is essentially about this teacher that he used to fancy, who was Michelle. So she loves that whole thing, that because for her it was when she was like a teenage teacher herself, kind of thing. Her first job was at Sylvia Young, and the fact that Matt went on to do everything that he did. So when I've rocked in there singing these songs and writing them myself, straight away she's like, it reminds me of Matt. And he's the archetype. So he even, I performed to him in my first year again, like, yeah, she brought him along to college to say, which again, how amazing is that? But what's interesting with her journey is because, so eventually when we're going back to the solidified energy of the band, because it was, yeah, you're right. I was older than the other two boys. It was my dream. It was my vision. So I'm sort of stepping on eggshells a little bit because I wanted to leave the college because financially, it, my parents couldn't really afford it, and I could see that, and I didn't want to be there because of that, because I just felt too much stress on the fact that, like, I'd never been to anywhere private before. It just didn't make me feel comfortable. So I'm leaving for my own reasons, but then the two boys come up to me isolated, and they just said, Ed, we've been thinking we want to leave college and really go for the band. We want to pursue the band as our full-time thing, which for me was like, whoa, because Tay was on a full scholarship. Tay didn't have to pay a penny.
Wow.
And Sonny had been at that college since he was a little kid. So it was a huge thing for him to be there. So the fact that they were coming up to me, because if I'd said that we're leaving, the college would have thought that I'd persuaded the boys to leave. But they came up to me and it was done the other way round. So that was like, whoa. So then when we left with the severity and almost the respect of our parents on our shoulders, because we had to make something happen. Because if we didn't, essentially, we've just left this amazing opportunity for nothing. And it was that really galvanized us as a band. And that's the energy that we had, where it was like, no, this is going to happen. That was the energy then. So yeah, then we'll cut forward to your other question about the top 10 hit, I believe.
Yes.
The song that we sung on the show got millions of streams. Like, I walked down the street and you'd get builders singing it to me and stuff like that. People, they loved it.
Oh, that was amazing.
And that's what the record label were going to have as the first single. But then label politics get involved, and they never ended up releasing it, which is like super frustrating. And then they just came to us with this other song that we'd written, which we didn't even think was like in the best sort of 6 songs that we've written. But they were like, this is going to be the next single. And yeah, then we was on tour at the time, going around arenas. And if you do something like that, it's great promotion all round, because you almost you need a story, man. Every band needs a story, because even if people love you, they need something to hook it on the back of. So the way that works neatly is, because let's park art and music for a minute, because you can have the best song ever, but if no one hears it, it doesn't. As a songwriter, we want people to hear our songs. If you're going on an arena tour every night, bare minimum, you're getting 20,000 people hear a song. That also means that every night, the town you're going to, or the city, there's a little buzz there that whoever's going to be there is going to that town, which then means that if you're a local newspaper or a radio station or anything in that town, well, they're interested because you're doing that show at that arena, and it comes with a level of clout. Then if you've got a single out at that time, it means every town you go to, someone's going to want to talk about it. And then you're doing that continuously. We was on tour for a whole month, non-stop press, which then means that you're giving your song a great opportunity.
Right.
So a lot of the stuff with music is timing for this thing to hatch at the right time. So that's why those shows like X Factor or Britain's Got Talent and stuff can be really great for artists. It's because it gives you that platform that then gives press something to talk about. People, and it bums on seats at the end of the day. When it comes to live theatre or gigs, it's getting people to buy a ticket. So it's giving them an extra moment to be curious. Like, we do loads of university gigs, and people will come and see you because X, Y, and Z. You need that X, Y, and Z.
There's like it's definitely a launching pad. And then, I used to be in advertising, and it's all about marketing and distribution. So you have these vehicles that these people are primed and ready to have these opportunities, right? And all of a sudden you win, like, okay, all right, you're off.
Yeah.
We like that song, but we think blah 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 in charge. And here you go. We're confident that you're going to be able to be what do you call it? Get enough attention and the right kind of timing to push you out and see what happens. So what happened? What happened when after you pushed you out after that month?
Yeah, because it's like a spiral effect as well. So then other stuff starts out then because you've done that thing. And yeah, like we play. So when we got a top 10 hit with What a Night, now you're an artist with a top 10 hit, and that's got kudos as well. So then when you're going around to television shows, well, they can't say then they don't care about you, because you go, well, I don't care if you don't care about me. We've just had a top 10 hit. So other people care about you. And they're like, oh, okay, right, get you on the show. So yeah, it was amazing, but it's the stark contrast of what's going on in my life now. Whereas I'm independent, you've got to try and fabricate and create those moments yourself, and it's quite hard to think like, what does that look like? What is that narrative and story that is going to be the moment? I don't know.
What was
yeah.
So when the band when the band split, the kind of the noise stopped. What was the hardest silence you had to face? And you spoke about, you've spoken openly about addiction. So, what was that like when the band split and, all the noise stopped, and how long did it take you a while to kind of clear your head and all that, your road to now I've recovery?
Yeah, yeah. So certain things like jump out at me. For example, I remember I'd be in a restaurant and I remember this geezer coming up to me and being like, "Oh, you're the boy in that band. Yeah, you're really good. It's such a shame that nothing happened for you." And it's like, wow. Because my life is like my life, like everything that I'm aware of, everything that's happened. And he's probably had like a tiny little nugget somewhere along the line that's given him enough to think that we were really good. But then in his perception, nothing's and I didn't ask for that, and I'm young as well. If he said that to me now, I'd be like, "What are you talking about, mate? Like, for starters, who are you to give me that feedback?" And also, I've done some amazing stuff. However, at the time, I was about 25, and it just was like, "Oh wow, my life's a shame." Like, and you believe it.
Do you know what that says to me? That says to me that people that don't really have that passion and purpose are just sitting back and observing this vehicle of we call cultural society, technology, with people out there attempting, right? You're playing the game, you're in the game. And all of a sudden, oh yeah, I saw you, you were really great. No, now I don't see you as much. And what happened? And it's too bad. But wait a minute. This is just like one of these people, like you said, like they're observers. And there's so many of those observers that are being shoved and presented with so much that after a while, right? Unless you're on the top of the cream, like a Taylor Swift or something, you had your moment. Doesn't mean it's over. You're still riding that wave. You were noticed, but it's like, it doesn't like, like my essence of who I am. So it almost like the whole general public gets deconditioned about the humanity of this person like you and your band, that what you did and what that brought to them and made them feel good. And they were singing their tunes while they're working. And they're just waiting for that next big hit to tune, right, to talk about. And it's almost like that fills their void of their pain, their angst, their non-vision of who they are. They're just kind of like trudging along. And do artists highlight and support their everyday, like, hey, smile, I know you didn't do what you did, but it's almost like when he said to you, right, you're older, he says this comment to you, and you're like, when you're younger, you're like, okay, there's a certain context to it. You're like, okay, how I can react to that. But ultimately you were being respectful. But really, I would say like, well, listen, dude, I'm here. And this is, I'm not going to try to judge I'm not going to try to compare me to you, but this is me. And so it's almost like there's a form of awareness where you want to give, I believe, constant, like decent human respect and humanity, but also kind of like, it's the messaging is key, right? When you sing a song, how do you tell that guy? How would you tell that guy right now in response to that? And with all said and done, and now that you've learned where you traveled through and how respect for like the fact that you've done all this, and this person, like he's one of millions of people that are in that kind of frame of mind that like, oh, too bad, you never made it, right? Good luck,
Yeah,
I'm waiting to be entertained by the next potential.
but when you're young, you do absorb it. So that's something that I'd pass on, is because obviously he was like 50 and I'm in my 20s. So you assume what they're saying is correct. And it's only now, because all my friends, like there's loads of people saying all this different stuff to me and I'm listening to all this stuff. But as I've got older, I've realized the people that have always understood what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and nurtured or respected and appreciated it are those people that have also are going after something. So like, for example, if you're self-employed, some of the most, if I go by success in terms of financial metrics, which isn't the best one, but certainly like just for the sake of an argument, if that's what you deem to be successful, they're the people that have always looked at anything that I've done with a sort of go get it champ attitude, or like, yeah, that happened then, but that's because you got to do this bit next and all that. When I'd have conversations with them, they would understand it, but then I'd have a conversation with someone that's in just a 9-to-5 job, and I would feel like being judged, like something had gone, I was doing something wrong, and it was just, it was interesting. And as you get older, you're building up more data about people's journeys and your own journey and the exploration. So you've got a better handle on that to actually weigh up. Actually, that's interesting that those people say that and those people say that. Okay, that's because I'm part of this. But when you're young, you take it all on board as like it's just adults talking, and of course what they're saying is correct.
Right. And I will, when you were kind of going to one side and to the other side, I will give you just a thought that I had. So imagine like life is a circle, right? And the goal is like people want to perceive that they're outside the circle, that you're either on top, you are on the decline, you're at the very bottom, or you're rising back up, back to the top. And the perspective of a person, I mean, the key is to try to be in the center, right in the center, and that this happens. This is an evolving experience of life. And every component you can break down a category of our lives, right? There's always something going up or down or whatever to bottom in recovery and that time. And you know that yourself. But what stands out to me as well is I like to share this. I consider that I think there's like 3 categories of people. The number 3 people are the people who, for whatever reason, they need to try to step up on something, no matter what they have to say, on like a pedestal and stand above you and look down at you and say something maybe not so positive. And that makes them feel, oh, look at you, right? You're judging you. And those people, I don't make much time for those people because I can't, if they have nothing positive to say, then I really don't want to hear negativity. So you can be kind and just not say anything. But the number 2 people are people that are in your life and they love being with you. And you enjoy being with them to a certain degree, and they get something from you. You're vibing them, you're energizing them, and you can feel it. They're like, they're attracted to what your energy is, your song, your music, right? Your desires with your career and all your efforts, right? Your bandmates had to be attracted to it. That was that energy, right? And it's like, when it starts to get mutual return, that's powerful. But you can only be with number two people for so long if they're only kind of taking from you, but they're not really giving you any kind of juice. And I'm not talking just about monetarily. I'm talking about advice, emotional, and energy, right? That's giving back to you and supporting your journey where you're at. It's like you talked about people identifying, like, really respecting like what your journey means as an artist, right? And then there's that number one. So those number two people, you love to have them. You care about them. It's you're human, right? But there's a certain point that they can kind of like almost, you can't have too many of those people too much because it can start to draw on you. And if you're not getting enough return. So those two people, I welcome them and I love most of them, but there's a certain limit and I got to protect myself. But those number one people, Eddie, the one people are like us having this conversation right now. I like to think that, we're vibing with the energy that we're having this exchange right now. We just met each other. But if there's a mutual exchange going on and you're like, whoa, this was really, I'm really getting this vibe and I understand what he's saying. You're inspiring me and you're opening the light of awareness for me in various, avenues of our lives. And you're like, those are the kind of people I like in my life. The people that are, have a vision, are giving and receiving and an exchange going on. And so it goes back to that side of like when we're younger, right? You just like go, okay, I'm either doing good or I'm doing bad. I'm either doing good or I'm doing bad. And then those people like, wait, what are you doing at all? And it's like, wait, there's got to be a semblance of like, if you live outside that circle, you're just going to be constantly in a revolving process of trying to think that you're outside as opposed to just your journey in the center, moving forward, Again,
yes. Sage advice, man, because I was certainly, after the band, just spending time with the first two types of people, and that was dwindling my whole perception of self. And that, I guess that's why I was drinking so much, because it was twofold. I wasn't surrounding myself with the energies of like, that's nothing that I've done is a failure. I'm surrounding myself with people that go, that's too bad. So yeah, and that's not who I identified as. But you're young, and I guess also when you're a performer, they're also helpful to have. You've almost got to create this thing where you're like, you can observe from above, because at the end of the day, if everyone's on stage, there's no one in the audience. So you need audience members, and those first two people we spoke about are the ones that would be in the audience. The third person you spoke about, they'll be watching you thinking, oh, I wish I was on stage with him right now because this is how I'd do it. Like they're the different energies. They're like, oh, this guy's amazing. I'd love to do this. If I was on stage with him right now, I'd do this, that, and that. That's what they're thinking when they're watching. But the other two people, they're watching it because they want to be there and they're taking it in the experience that you want to deliver. So as much as they're frustrating and annoying with their opinions, they're also like the ones that you're serving.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you have to and then there's also an honesty to sometimes their critique. So you have to like become super intelligent and be able to sift through what's actually useful and what's not. And when you're young, like how's that? How you've got nothing to base that on.
Are we calling that? Can we call that emotional intelligence?
Potentially, yes.
And I will just say that I'm going to say, when you said about the fellow musician or artist that wants to be, they want to be in the center with you. Right?
Yeah.
They want to be in center of the circle so you can see this whole picture. This is a process going on in here, and those people are outside the loop, and so that But how did when did sobriety become a turning point, and how did your faith enter the picture?
Yeah, sobriety came about again going back to one of my friends who's a songwriter. He's been into rehab a few times, and I love listening to podcasts, and you start to pick up on things. So I'd heard loads of things about AA and the buddy system and stuff like that, and I was having loads of problematic things happening in life with drink driving and all sorts of drink involved situations, again with the wrestle of I'm actually quite a nice bloke. However, when I was getting drunk, all these things were happening where I'd have to wake up and apologize for, and it was becoming a bit like playing roulette. where it's like, no, sorry, blackjack, where sometimes you're winning and everyone's loving it and you were hilarious that night even though you were drunk, but then every now and then the house wins and you're like, and everything you've got is just worth nothing because of that thing that happened. So I was getting quite scared of, well, how, and then going back to the podcast, I realized that the people like me were either sober or dead. That's the reality of it. The people that I was looking at their stories and thinking like, oh, I see myself in the things that they've told. They'd either got sober or they were dead. And I'm like, well, which one am I waiting for? And then my friends called me up talking about this book called Alan Carr, Alcoholism, or How to Control Your Alcoholism. And I thought he was calling me up to help him. So I started going on this buddy system with him where we would read it, call each other every week to see how we was getting on with it. And it just helped me massively. And then it just become this thing that I guess I never thought could even be an option, to something that now I couldn't afford not to be.
Wow. I mean, Eddie, I mean, those were really powerful statements. So thank you for sharing. And, the talents and the discoveries and this vehicle, I think this is a very strong message in terms of both the potential disappointments of not pursuing, and then are we ever ready, right? Are we ever ready for whatever outcome that we're doing? If we're traveling our purpose or whatever? No, it's like this discovery opened the day, and as I get older, and I've been around on this planet a little bit longer than you, there's a sense of, I'm at a stage in my life where everything is so precious. And these exchanges, like this is conversation, right? It's unfolding how it really should and it's supposed to. And it's this, I go back to that whole thing of like, you're either going to try to pursue your purpose and that creative expression. And when young kids really, and I was one of them that, you want to cut your hair, you want to dress different, you want the punk scene, you want to stand out, you want to like make sure yourself heard because you feel subconsciously that you're not able to be you or to be comfortable to be seen because you're so busy playing a role that society says this is what we expect from you. And this is the foundation that's going to allow you to be safe and to be good boy or whatever, good person. But step out and take those chances. This is what everybody's is attracted to in art. Like, whoa, look at this piece. I mean, this is crazy. How did he do this? What was going on? Well, that's the mystery. And the mystery of life. The mystery of life is what's so fascinating. So I'm going to mention these because I think, when you mentioned, you gave me a nice comment. So I thank you about the sage moment. But I want to share something with you, which I think that you will really, really identify with. Is that here in America, we have E pluribus union, and there's like a pyramid on the back of a $1 bill. And you've heard of the eye of reason, haven't you? Have you ever heard of the eye of reason?
No.
The founding fathers of America were pretty smart people. Anyway, on the back of a US dollar, next time you see one, take a look, there's a pyramid. And pyramid has, if you look at the top, right, you would have 4 lines, correct? It's like a square.
Yeah.
So there's 4 sides to the pyramid, correct?
Right.
So each of the base of the pyramid, there's a negative and a positive. Negative energy, positive energy. Flop that pyramid, negative, positive. 4 times, right?
Right.
So I'm a big follower of Joseph Campbell, who was a foremost leader, authority on mythology. And mythology is all about the rituals and the storytelling and peoples of how they get along in our world, no matter what level of technology or what time you were born, right? So there's 4 planes, and one of the planes is the mystery plane. So there's a negative and positive energy. So you need to be open to the fact that this is potential. Wouldn't you say that if you're going after something, there's a likelihood of you succeeding or failing, correct? So you're going to take the mindset of being in the center, and I'm going, okay, I'm going to attempt this to go up the side of the pyramid. That's the mystery plane. Turn that, and now you have the community plane, community ethos. Am I going to be a real dick, or am I going to follow the law and be a nice person and try to find in between where I can try to ascend the community ethos? Flop the plane again. The universal plane, the universe plane, the cosmic world, right? The energy of our vibrations. Am I going to send out good vibrations, negative vibrations? Is this, the mystery of the universe, right? How we're here. And like, okay, I can't deny it, and I'm not going to put all my eggs in the basket with that. But I know that universe, our cosmic energy, we are colliding, right? The universe is full of colliding frequencies. So you have to kind of find a place where if you're too extreme, like, no, I don't believe in that universe of how that was, right? Or if I'm completely in, it's a positive, negative charge, the polarity. So I'm going to take the center, again, to ascend to the top of the pyramid. The final plane, brother, is the faith aspect, your spirituality. So if you believe in God, I don't believe in God. I believe in a hardcore, one particular religion, or I am, I have, I'm kind of in doubt. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. But I'm going to try to understand that. I'm going to respect this one, and I'm going to find my own way here in the center. And that, again, is traveling to the center of the top of the pyramid. If any of those planes, the mystery plane, your community ethos, the cosmic universe, or your spiritual plane, if you're not understanding that if you go to any extreme, you're going to be limited to try to find the ultimate, what the founders of our country described as the eye of reason. And that forms a level of communication that, like, hey, you're an artist. I love the arts. I'm not quite sure it's for me exactly for a career. I love it. So I'm going to be right here in the middle. It's like, I have my job. I love this job, but the arts really help me, but I can't put all my eggs in that basket. I really appreciate it. So they're a true fan, right? They're a true critic. But those people that are going to judge your music one way or the other, like, nah, it's Iron Maiden. It's got that cover on it. It's really loud. I'm not even going to consider the creativity and messaging it has in it. You feel me? So that ascension, but I think that's a powerful symbology, and it's helped me understand, like, when you had all the success you've had, the buildup of getting there, and the success you had, now you realize you haves and have-nots. Now you're here, and you're going, okay, now I have some sense of experience of both extremes. I need to find some kind of center with your buddy. Tell me more about your partner in the AA stuff and how that helped you.
Yeah, he's my friend, really, just a lifelong friend, and he's like a year or two older than me, so he's always been further ahead. He's always had the things that I want. And so when that used to be a nice car, it was the nice car. Then it was a flat, then it was the flat, then it was the house, he had the house, then he had the girlfriend, and now it's the family. He's got a lovely family, and that's the thing that I would love most in my life. But the thing he's always had is no matter if I'm in the tent or he's in the mansion, we're both in the tent together, we're both in the mansion together. Like, we can enjoy everything together. And it's been great to have him in my life, because he understands me on a level, because I understand him on the same level, and we can only really see each other every now and then, otherwise we start winding each other up, because it's too much. We're too similar. Then we're like
so there's a very potent number one relationship that you understand, that's so potent and so charging that it's beneficial and alive, and it's not going anywhere, that any moment you can call them up and you're right back on it, right? You're like,
yeah, for sure.
You pick up right where you left off. Now I would be remiss if I didn't mention, I want you to talk about your new album, Common Kalos.
Yeah, it's pronounced Galos. It's a Greek word, but
Okay.
It's spelled Kalos, and it's just it's a Greek word for when a beauty is sort of 360. It's beyond just a visual beauty. It's actually that someone who turns up on time, someone who's connected with their truth and the word. They're the person that if they say they're going to be there, they'll be there. And actually, that's really attractive. And it's how someone conducts themselves. It's that idea that beauty is so much more than just a physical attribute. So then the common kalos is just trying to find that in our everyday world.
Right. Each of us as individuals.
Yeah, it's just like trying to open our eyes to see things because it's all there. The beauty's there everywhere. But it's just whether we've got the eyes to see it at that moment in time.
I'm curious, how did you come across this Greek word kalos?
There's a series of Bibles called the Alabaster series, and they've taken the word and basically made them into copybook looking magazines. So they're really beautifully done, and you could you could put it anywhere, and people would pick it up and be like, "Wow, this is amazing!" And each is it a chapter? You know, like say it said Matthew 5:1. Like that one, would that be classed? Anyway, but basically each page is just like got one. So it really has an opportunity to shine. It's not like loads of words crammed into a tiny little Bible. It's like a real celebration and it's beautiful. Anyway, so that's Alabaster and that's their company. But they've also got this book about creativity and Christianity. And I was reading that and it started talking about this word kalos. And I was just like, wow, and
You
it's sort of
connected.
speaking true to what I'd been writing at that moment in time. And then I used that as the whole, because there wasn't an album. An album didn't exist. Just a song existed. But that gave me something to sort of strive towards as an overarching theme.
Well, listen, you know, I want to give you something and, you know, again, thank you so much for sharing your story and your experiences and I think it's just invaluable for what we've kind of unveiled here, these nuggets, I believe, that are powerful for at any age awarenesses. And we all listen to podcasts, right? We want to all have these listen to these different perspectives and non-judgmental, and we consume what we consume. But I will tell you that, you know, this painting behind me, which I did, but underneath it there's a cross. I was raised Catholic, Christian faith, and my father was also raised Catholic, Christian, Catholic, but he became interested in Eastern philosophy. So I created this painting because he was such he's identified with the realms of the human potential and was big enough or open enough to look outside just whatever particular foundational box you get put in or practice, right? To see the big world, right? To keep an open mind, like we talk about, right? We want to be able to see and open, I'm sure, as your creativity, you want to try to stay open to the world and get these motivations, inspirations, right? Any time of our lives. So the painting, which is in all my podcasts, I painted it in dedication to my parents, because that shining ring above me, that's me. That's how I come out at the end. And that's me trying to radiate this message of positivity and passing it forward as a mentor. But the title, I entitled it Enthuse. And because you said the Greek word kalos, the Greek word for enthusiasm, that's where the word enthuse helps us form the word enthusiasm. Well, the translation of enthuse, the Greek word, is the God within. So we are walking with these God-like energies. And I truly believe, Eddie, that, you know, when you want to use whatever prophet you want to say, our spiritual foundation, that, you know, God, or however you want to define him, if he was in my faith and my foundation, we have always been told that God has ridden, right? He ascended into heaven. I truly believe that he ascended into that level of a higher plane of awareness and practical application, but ultimately his energy has stayed here and ascended into our hearts, and that we need to walk in his footsteps and be that understanding, compassionate for the people that are struggling, and to have a civility of humanity, basically. And again, I'm just sharing that because I was inspired by the name of your album. Now, can everybody find that album? Where's the best way to people to find that album?
Yeah, wherever they want to, really. It's on most of the, wherever you'd usually go to find music. Yeah, type in Eddie Brett, Common Kalos in Spotify or YouTube Music or Apple Music, Amazon Music. It's all there.
So I want to finish up with one more for you question. How do you define success today, and how is it different from the version you once chased?
Yeah, I just really want to feel like content. I've always really struggled with either not feeling enough or feeling like people, for everything that comes across as like confidence and striving and aspiration, it's always come from a bed of like chaos. And as much as my parents paid for the college fees and everything at that moment in time, life was chaos. There was step parents, there was divorce, there was affairs. So, like, I really struggled with a sense of place and identity and feeling confident in myself. But over time, now my family's more connected at this day today than they've ever been in my entire life. And I just want to really like nurture that, because that it's why I like the Bible, and Jesus' teaching has really struck me, because he talks about building on rock and the strong foundations, and it's so true. And because otherwise you could build something up, but it's always like inevitable to fall down because there's nothing beneath it. And as I build a stronger relationship with my family, everything else just around it just gets better, and just my mind can just chill more, and I'm more grateful. And then I'm more grateful with the small things, which then mean when a big thing happens, I'm actually more grateful for that than I would have been if that just was massive. I don't know how to explain it. And you mentioned earlier about like enjoy, like, yeah, I wouldn't change anything about the past, but there's definitely things I'd look back and I would have done different, but it had to happen for me to be in this thing now. And it's like, and if it ever happened again, it would feel entirely different. But I just want to feel content, and I just want to try and, you mentioned so beautifully about that walk with God, and I just want to try and stay in that space. You know that feeling when you just feel like you're just there doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And I just want to try and stay as close to that as possible. And sometimes that's scary and overwhelming, and sometimes it's easy and it just falls naturally. Yeah, there's a song lyric earlier that I wrote down where it's even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. Because sometimes you're there, you're like, oh, I'm so connected right now, and then sometimes you feel like you're falling away, but you're not. The fact you're even thinking it's not there at the moment means it's just there. It's just in your life. And so, yeah, I just want to stay on that path, basically.
Listen, that was beautiful. And my friend, I feel my new friend, you are in the center. You have discovered the true center. And I let's make one comment about the architecture of our parents, and the reason, that's the reason we're here, and their decision to create the beings, our parents create the beings that we are, and that they do their best at the time and the moment in their lives, just like we did, dealing with what the resources and the architecture of that foundation you talked about. Some are more fortunate than others to even have what we had, and no matter how chaotic it is. But there are moments of constant mystery and strife and up and downs, which we have to kind of like, just have to accept the fact that they're going to be those. And how much are you in the center to appreciate just the fact that you have the ability and the comprehension and now more and more experience to guide yourself through, and, understand that the polarity of good times and bad times, but we're here and you had the amazing experience of living a musical journey, and now you're on another path, still doing it, and you've been where people only dream of. And that's what I kind of, the message I love to leave to today's podcast is like, dream, baby, dream.
Let's go.
Dream, baby, dream, right? Let's go.
That's it. Always.
Listen, I wish you all the best with your new album and all your future work. And what part of, I'll dial in. I'll keep you connected. We'll talk more. But I'm always a big traveler. So I'm going to have to come over and cross the pond.
Yeah.
Someday and whatever.
Go for a pine mash.
Okay. So I wish you all the best, Eddie. Thank you so much for sharing. Keep on your journey, your path, and God bless.
God bless you as well. Thank you so much for this conversation. I've taken a lot from it.
Hey, wonderful. And we're just gonna stay online here a little bit after this, and we'll talk a little bit more. But so everyone, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I did immensely. My newfound friend Eddie Brett, check out his album. Really aligns with my purpose here and my passion to inspire others. So till next time, guys. We'll see you, kids. Bye-bye.
Professor.